Like seriously, start fixing bikes, you moron. Jesus. Hey bike farmers, thanks for clicking in. So this customer brought me this bike, and it's a very common thing I see around the shop where there's a bike that's been sitting for what seems like probably years here. I'm showing cobwebs and rust and dirt and grime and flat tires, and it's just been sitting maybe in a garden shed or maybe a detached garage or something like that. Here in Wisconsin, we have like a freeze thaw thing that goes on. Things get really humid in the summer, and all that moisture in the air kind of collects in the bike, and you know, these bikes that sit, they hate it. So I kind of call these projects reanimation projects. This bike I'm gonna bring back from the dead. It's unrideable right now. Before I thought that I was gonna do a video with it, I did spray this chain with some lube so it doesn't look as rusty as it is, but I'll get some close-ups of what I'm seeing on this bike quick before we get started. I'm able to see through all that and know that this is actually gonna be a pretty straightforward, easy tune-up. I like that. I think there's a ton of value for the customer, and it's good profit for me. So it's a win-win situation, and this one's gonna get some new tubes, and otherwise it's just cleaning, lubing, and adjusting the basics. It's enough of an intro. Let's get started. You can see these cobwebs attracting dust, and then I don't know if I can get a good focus on it or not, but there's cobwebs from the seat all the way down. Yeah, there we go. Yuck. Yuck. We can tell here that the bike was sitting and the tire was flat, how it's crunched there. We'll see once if I get a new tube in here, see if there's any cracking. I think these tires are gonna be okay. 700C by 28 millimeter tires is about as skinny as I'd want to go on this bike. I suspect they'll be out on the gravel bike trail. Anything skinnier than 28 is pretty uncomfortable. Now I sprayed this chain last night, and I even sprayed it with some Croil, which is kind of like a PB blaster type deal. We don't have sticky links, and so really I think you can spray and wipe this and the bike will function just fine. But talking with the customer, I'm like, there's quite a bit of rust. You know, a new chain is only like 35 bucks or something like that for a 10-speed chain. Maybe it's worth replacing. And they said, go ahead and replace it. So they're going to do 2 new tubes and a chain, and I think we'll be able to get away with the rest. I always use brake pads as a way to see how much the bike has been ridden. I don't know how easy it is for you to see, but I'm looking in there. And these are thin brake pads anyway, but I can tell there's not a whole lot of wear on them. So, and this tire has minimal wear on it as well. I just don't see there being a ton of use on this bike. So I'm not too worried about cables and things like that that might wear out and snap, you know, and that's another reason why it's like, well, does the chain really need replaced? It's not really worn out, it's just rusty, but it'll wear out faster because of the rust, so might as well change. And then this is all cosmetic, you know, we clean that up first, and then sometimes with a lot of humidity, the rubber and the grips gets gooey and sticky, and this isn't so bad at all. So we'll get that all cleaned up, and per the usual, I like to get the bike in little and little. That helps us get the wheels off. Disconnect the brake. Don't really need to because the tire's flat, but kind of need to anyway. And we'll pop the wheels off and set them aside. Okay, so these cobwebs, I got this Park Tool brush. Does a really good job of just kind of knocking that stuff down and taking care of it. So you can see how you can, relatively little effort goes a long way, it makes a huge improvement. So when we have the bike in this state, it's a good time to just go through and clean the frame. Actually, a lot of times I'll disconnect the cables before doing this. I forgot. We'll do that next. Hey bike farmers, I just wanted to take this lull in the action to let you know how much I appreciate that you've clicked in to watch this video. Now that I've been at it a little bit, I'm starting to learn why everybody's always asking for more. The AdSense money is just barely enough to make it worth starting a channel. If I want to sustain this for the long term, I'm going to need everyone's help. Now don't get me wrong, your attention is enough. Don't feel obligated to give more, but I've tried to make it as easy as possible. You can always click the super thanks, that's the heart with the $ in the middle of it, or consider a monthly membership. The monthly membership will give you a little star next to your name, and if you have any questions, you can ask them in the comments. I'll see the star, and when I see it, I'll definitely give you an answer. You'll also have access to a little more behind the scenes action that non-members can't see. With all that said, thank you so much, and let's get back to some bikes. Get comfortable here on Woody Charleston, and we'll get to replacing these tubes. I'm starting to see some threads on these tires. They're not the greatest looking things. I've kind of primed the pump with the customer saying that if it were my bike, I'd go with a little wider tire, probably 32s at the minimum, you know, that these 28s are good enough. We'll see. Maybe once I get air in them. Sometimes when you get air in them and start applying some pressure to the situation, you start to see the cracks and the deformities and make it a little more obvious that you need tires. I haven't heard back on it, so I'm just gonna plow forward. I've got tubes that say 28 to 35 on them. These are 28s. I think the bike would take up to 38, so we can use these tubes in whatever we decide. It's all good. So just a couple spots of concern, you know, like right here, you can kind of see it's getting a little threadbare. I don't know. I mean, to be honest, like, I just don't think it's going to cause any problems, but it's something that I could show a customer and sell new tires. Obviously, as a businessman, it's like, I'm going to mention it, but I hate selling people what they don't need. And I just don't think you need to replace that tire. Yeah, it's always, it's a tough call for me. So this was a situation where I didn't have the customer in the shop. They just dropped the bike off, left it outside for me, and then I've been texting them. It hasn't been a very clear call and response text, which is kind of annoying for me. I think text is very easy and the best way to communicate, but not everybody feels the same. And sometimes it feels like people make it more difficult than it needs to be. I'm just looking, you know, letting them know what's up and looking for a straight answer. Like, should we replace the tires or not? Customer service is always a challenge. Hard to figure out everybody's favorite way to communicate. So I just do the best I can with what I've got. Oh yeah, let's talk about this inflator here from Efficient Velo Tools. It's kind of my new tool. I've talked about it in the past few videos. They gave it to me and I absolutely love it. And I've already heard from some of you that you went out and bought them. That's expensive. Go to Efficient Velo Tools or evt.com. I don't know. There's a link in the description. If you're inflating a lot of tires, I think it's worth it. Especially if you're inflating a lot of tires and you know what your favorite tire pressure is. It's nice to have a really good inflator that gets you just dialed in and easy to use. Most of the time I say make it firm and go for a bike ride. Because most of us don't care or won't feel the difference. But for the more avid cyclists out there, like myself, you know, I like to have a specific tire pressure depending on the bike I'm riding. So having a real inflator with a good gauge and good action on it. And these are the best. It's the best on the market. So go get one. And I have no issues at all with this front tire. It's great. Fixed. So this bike is pretty much just dusty, cobwebs. We've established that. I've shown you the close-ups. And part of my tune-up process is going through and polishing things up and cleaning all that dust and grime and making things clean. I don't strip the bikes down, chase all the threads, face everything. I'm not restoring these bikes. I'm just tuning them up, you know, cleaning them up. Some shops don't even clean your bikes when they tune it. And it's just a matter of lubing and adjusting maybe. Some shops go the extra mile and do all this other stuff that I don't do. You know, every shop's a little different. I'm very transparent. My tune-ups are $100, and that's cleaning, lubing, and adjusting all the basic systems. I don't always touch the hubs like this. It feels good. It's fine. I'm just gonna leave it. I don't, you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So you'll rarely see me messing around with hubs unless I feel something that raises alarm. You know, if you're paying $100 for a tune-up and want a couple of tubes put on, I usually don't charge extra for that. Although I definitely could. Most shops do around here. And I still seem to get a lot of comments whenever I start talking about pricing about how I'm ripping people off. And people claim that I'm being dishonest, and I'm not. I take effort to find out what other shops are charging, and then I charge accordingly. And there are people in my town have an option to drive a half hour in either direction to the next larger town with a bike shop and go somewhere else. They might have a better deal, might have a bike co-op that has more used parts than I do. There's certainly cheaper options. You can buy stuff on Amazon and do it yourself, but most people come to me because they don't know how to do that. They don't want to do that. They'd rather just pay me to do it. So I charge accordingly. I don't have a problem with people, you know, saying, hey, you should do it this way, or I don't like how you do that, or whatever. You don't have to like it, right? It's just when people say that I'm being dishonest, that's what bothers me. It's rude, it's inconsiderate. And I've started to block those people from my channel. So, you know, if you think $100 is too much for a tune-up, that's one thing. You can say that, like you would never pay that, that's fine. But to say I'm doing something nefarious here, I have zero tolerance for that anymore. I won't allow you to have a voice. I will take that voice away from you. It's just not true. My market is probably different than yours. I think we are way more, our bike shops are way more expensive here than other parts of the country, but it is what it is. Oh, and this one, the guy I just blocked that got me thinking of it. My favorite argument that I get in the comments is I'm an auto mechanic, or I'm a different profession, and you know, try being an HVAC guy or something like that. It's so much harder, so much worse. You know, we have to do so much time of apprenticeships and whatever, and you know, you're charging our prices, you know. Or this one was like, I don't know, somehow it was about therapists with I'm charging as much as a therapist with a master's degree or something like that. I have no idea. And I was just like, what are you trying to say? You know, like really? And so I called them out, and then they were like, I'm gonna give you a 1-star Google review. Now, like a true sociopath would, you know, they were saying about how like I can't charge this much because I didn't earn it. And I'm like, I don't know if I earned it or not. I'm just, if I don't charge what other shops are charging, I'm leaving money on the table. This is a business. If fixing bikes is so easy, and you see me making as much money as you're making doing it, and you're working harder, start fixing bikes, you moron. Like seriously, start fixing bikes, you moron. Jesus. Like, why are your problems my problems today? Anyway, I think this is the 4th video in a row where I'm complaining about the commenters. I really should probably go talk to somebody about that. It's getting under my skin. But yeah, I make pretty good money working on these bikes. Get $100 for not a ton of work. I'm a lucky guy. And I would encourage you, get good at tuning up bikes and then start charging people $100 a piece for them. Do it in your town. It's a great way to make a living. I got lots of free time. I go on vacations. I spend time with the family. I'm a self-made man. All because of these machines and because I'm really good at getting furniture polish and a rag. All I did is polish the bike and charge $100 for it. I get that comment a lot too. This guy's full of shit. All he did is polish the bike. I could do that. Oh yeah? Why aren't you doing that? Why are you working your shitty job instead? Also, it's like $700 a month for insurance. You try to make a living doing it. Getting liability insurance for a bike shop right now is almost impossible. Like, I am not kidding. That is not, I don't know, what do you call that? Conjecture? I'm not exaggerating. I needed to find insurance this spring, and it was so difficult. I almost didn't get insurance. I almost had to not open the shop this spring. It was nuts. They just don't want the liability, especially with the e-bikes on the market these days. I mean, people are getting hurt because they're shitty, and bike shops are getting sued because they touch them. I won't touch them. Hey, watch this. Pull in, undo, move the housing, lube the cable, put it back. Do that if your derailleur is ever acting funny. But if you leave it like that, then you can disconnect this one up here and lube it. Okay, and then the other thing you can do is give her the old reach around here, and maybe not. Okay, so I just pulled really hard on this piece of housing and pedaled to move the derailleur up, and now the chain is kind of holding the front derailleur in place while I get access to this little piece of housing here. And there's no corrosion on these cables in this housing. So wherever this was stored, it really wasn't that damp. It was just the chain that got it. So I don't know what's up with that. But in a real damp environment, you'll see corrosion start forming in the cables. Put this one back in place. This isn't something I always show, but you don't have to flip the bike upside down to do it too. If you just lube right there, that helps quite a bit too. Just anywhere the cable's got some friction, drop some lube, then everything moves pretty smoothly. Slicker than snot on a doorknob. Oh yeah. You know, my grandmother ate a lot of prunes, and we'd hear her in the bathroom singing, "Wiping as we go, wiping as we go. When you eat like I do, you'd be wiping as you go." Something like that. So I'm still pretty old school here. I used to have a bolt cutter that I would just cut these chains off of bikes. That's the smart way to do it. But we're gonna throw this chain away. So it's cleaning, lubing. So don't forget to lube your brake pivots. A couple drops down in there, and then the springs. A lot of people like to talk about how that collects dust and grit and grime, and maybe it does, but at least it's not rusting. This spot's a little trickier. We're gonna use gravity and surface tension to get some lube down in there. Thankfully, these systems are really clean. Yeah, and then we'll get down here with the noodle. And don't forget to lube your noodle, guys. There's no shame in it. Same thing over here. Now this is a little bit different than usual, and that's because people have decided that internal cable routing is better on bikes. I think it's an aero thing, more aerodynamic. And I think the theory is that once you assemble the bike properly with the right cables and lube, and if you store it properly, you never really have to open it up. And I don't know, I mean, sure, I still am old school, and I like to have access to all my cables and be able to tune things up the old-fashioned way, maintain things. I don't know. Exciting times indeed for this bike. We get to turn it back into a bicycle. Yeah, you're gonna have some limited visibility here with this rack, but reconnect things here. This is really tricky. God forbid you ever get a flat on the fly. Oop. Just bonked my head. Should wear a helmet. Fixing bikes. Okay, so I saw that the brakes were hitting unevenly. So first thing I always check is, do I have the wheel and the dropout straight? And in this case, the answer was no, I did not. But now I do, and look at those brakes. Perfect. These happen to be really nice. I think these are made by Avid. Oh no, it says right there, Cannondale by Promax. Anyway, these Promax brakes are amazing. Really like them. Like to get it set. Heard all kinds of squeaking in this lever. Get at it. Tri-flow, get at it. That brake feels just a little loose, so I'm gonna use the barrel adjuster. It's kind of cheating. It's not very pro of me, but it's a nice adjustment. And for whatever reason, that adjustment made me feel a little bit of an imbalance back here. So I'm just gonna adjust that's the sound we're looking for. Nice and snappy. And you get that when they hit at the same time. And it's almost always better to demonstrate all this from the front brake. And there's way more cable pull to activate this front brake than the rear brake. So I'm gonna pull in some cable there. Okay, that's too snappy. Let a little out. Still a little too snappy. I'm trying to get it to match the feel of the rear. That's the same. And oh yeah, we already lubed it, didn't we? So we got the cable pull right. And we got that nice snappy feel. I love it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, folks. Papa don't preach, I'm keeping that baby. Wiping as we go. Wiping as we go. When you eat like we do, you're wiping as we go. Okay, brand new chain here. Okay, and then we measure it up here. Looks like we can take one link out and be in pretty good shape. I just set it up little and little, and then have a little bit of tension on the rear derailleur so things aren't flopping around. And that makes the chain as long as possible. So then future mechanics, if they put on a bigger cassette or whatever, there's enough chain to handle it. Now, in a lot of the newer stuff, you can't get away with that. Chain length is super important. Video right before this one, I was using some brand new Shimano Qs components, and really learned my lesson that the chain length totally matters with those systems. You can't do it this way. And I know a lot of people have always set them up big, and there's like rules that they follow, and it's the right way. It's the Shimano recommended way. So you should probably do it that way if you want to do it quote unquote right. But this has always worked. I've done it on my own bikes forever, and it works great. So I don't know, that's the way I do it. So brand new chains come with like a kind of a waxy film on them. So I just spray the crap out of them with one step cleaner and lubricant. It's another one of my methods that gets a lot of comments. People think I'm a total hack for doing it that way. Okay, I'm a hack. Okay, when I get it shifted up there, we do a little more wiping as we go. Clean this up. Yeah, I challenge anyone who thinks they know better than me. I challenge every single one of you to come move into my town or my area open up a bike shop and compete. Prove it. That's my challenge to you. Oh yeah, look at that. Okay, so we're in the low gear, big cog. We're gonna go one click and it shifts 2 cogs. That means we have a loose cable. This is your barrel adjuster. And if you turn it out, so lefty-loosey, brings the barrel adjuster out. You can see this little silver showing here. That means that there's a little barrel adjuster that's coming out. That lengthens this piece of housing, which essentially tightens the cable. I don't know, I think that's the best way to put it. There we go. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 was a little slow. 8 was a little slow. 9. Okay, so right there, if you press the big lever on the shifter, it should shift up into there, and then there. Okay, so that was willy-nilly, just hitting the shifter. I'm gonna go one by one. 1, okay, it's not going. I'm gonna tighten the cable just a little bit more. Okay, that was 2. Okay, it's not coming down. This is really close, but it's just a little off. Shimano 10-speed is notoriously finicky, and that's what we're dealing with here. But it's notoriously finicky with the road drifters. I'm gonna check my derailleur hanger here just to make sure that it's right, and I should do that on every single bike before I get to this step. I should. I know it, and I don't. And I don't know why. I have a head trash about it, but we're gonna do it right now. So we take the derailleur off. You have to be really careful with these derailleur hangers and bending them. You don't want to break them. And now that I said it out loud, it's jinxed and I'm going to break it. Hopefully we'll find that it's not bent at all and we don't have to touch it. But this tool allows you to true that hanger. So at 12 and 6 it's good. So 3 it's off a little bit, I think. Yep, 3 and 9 it's off a little bit. I'm gonna bend it very carefully this way, just a smidge. These are very subtle adjustments and it's all by feel. Just a little more. And then double check. Okay, and you can get it really close, and really close is most of the time good enough. So it was just off subtly. Probably not enough to cause any kind of real squirreliness, but now we have peace of mind that we have a straight hanger. It's always a good idea to have an extra hanger. If you do a lot of biking, I think like mountain bikers, always carry an extra hanger because you can catch a stick or whatever in your drivetrain and rip everything apart. They're made to break. And then you can just replace the hanger on the road with a few basic tools. And a brand new one is presumably straight. So a lot of people, if they have a bent hanger, like a lot of shops will just replace the hanger. I always try to bend them first. Sometimes they break when you bend them. And of course, when you bend them, every time you bend them, they get weaker. See, that's performing very well. Okay, that I clicked twice and it was a little slow. Okay, that feels a little tight. All right, that's all in the little ring up front. It doesn't like to focus on the front, but you don't really need to a whole lot. So here we are in the front ring, or the big ring in the front. That changes the chain angle a little bit, so things act a little bit different. So I'm just kind of finding the happy medium. Yeah, it's a little finicky, but that's how these 10-speed drivetrains are. And you have to be, everybody shifts a little differently too. So like, there's clicking, there's indexing in the shifters, but still there's a lot of user input involved on these systems. So how I set it up and how somebody else uses it could be different things. So somewhere in the middle usually works out. I don't get bikes coming back too often. And sometimes you'll see me just spray the crap out of these front derailleurs. If it's like really rusty or really dirty, I'll just hit it with one step and sometimes even blow it off with compressed air or something. But this one's pretty clean, so just kind of lube the pivots with a little bit of tri-flow. And then I had wiped off the bulk of the cobwebs and stuff in an effort to wipe as we go. It's always good to kind of go through with a rag and do a little more at the end. Sometimes there's dust that gets on the cables or down here behind the reflector. All right, it looks very clean. Speaking of clean, look at that frame. No dust. All right, that was all cobwebs before. You know, that was all dusty and gross and cobwebby, and now it's clean as a whistle. And that's it for this one, folks. I'll probably give it a quick test ride before I let the customer know it's done. But you know, in this video, I really just wanted to show you how you can do a quickie tune-up. Take a half hour, 45 minutes, maybe an hour in your garage. Do those few things, and you've got yourself a bike that I consider better than brand new. It's already been through its break-in period, so a little cleaning and lubing and adjustment. This bike is good to go for a few years, I'd say. I'll encourage this customer to find a drier spot to store this bike just to prevent that chain from rusting out. But ultimately, it wasn't super bad. I mean, this bike wasn't rotting in there. You know, I think another year or two and we would have had many more problems. So I'm glad we got to this when we did. Thank you so much for watching to the end. That's the #1 way to support this channel. The algorithm loves that, and it'll suggest it to other people because they know you liked it. If you did like it, let us know by clicking the like, the thumbs up, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. We'd love to have you around. It's always nice to get those super thanks. You know, $5 taco money right on the spot is really great. Or consider a monthly sustaining membership. You know, $5 or $10 a month. You probably won't even know it's hardly out of your account. And I love seeing that little bonus every month. So thanks again. I will see you next time. Oh, for yourself, click that notification bell so you and your bike can stay tuned.